I'm going to get started. Evening, y'all, or, whatever time it is where you are, I mean, I'm saying evening because I'm supposed to be doing this show in London tonight, and it's actually 9 p.m. There's actually night. I'm not going to say good night. That would imply I've already ended the show. We've barely just begun, So good evening, y'all. But, like where I am, it's early, well, mid-afternoon, it's mid-afternoon, y'all, or like late afternoon if it's New York City, or like, maybe it's late morning somewhere, some places I don't even know about. So like wherever it is, please consider yourself addressed, like, evening, morning, afternoon, twilight, dawn, dusk, whatever am I time traveling right now? That would be so rad. You know how I feel about time travel. I love it. It's amazing. I don't want to be presumptuous that I'm the first time traveler ever. Because I'm like appearing at all times, all at once. So like, if any of y'all have ever time traveled before, like please let me know on the screen. Is there a time travel emoji? I mean, maybe. I don't know. Let's sort this out, internet. I mean, like I said, I was supposed to be performing in London this evening at the Comedy Club 2 North Down, and like obviously I'm not there because of everything going on, but like if you'd like to, support 2 North Down, help keep them going, during this tough time, you can go to their website and you can buy like future drinks, like to have at a later date. And actually it's really cool. They'll match you pound for pound, like that Divine Comedy song, heavyweights in the final round. Actually it's not like that at all, actually. Because like we're talking about pounds, money, not pounds weight. I'm not saying money doesn't weigh anything. Obviously it does. We're talking about. I've gotten myself confused now, but we're talking. It's all money on the website. But speaking of like liquids and drinking and weight, I have no idea how much I consume, with weight. I assume it says on the bottle on some, but you're like getting water from the tap to make tea. I've drank a lot in my day, but I have no idea how much it weighs, I probably still drink a lot now, but with all the herbal teas and straight up aloe juice, we're going to have to sort this out, man, But anyway, if you go to 2northdown.com, that you can buy drinks to have at a later date, like that Joy Division song, But anyway, I'm not in London. I'm in Idaho. That B-52 song, my own private Idaho. It's crazy, too, because it is real private, because we're all in quarantine, I didn't plan it like this for this show, but it just happens like that. And I can't even go out on my patio, like they said, And the B-52s, I love bands with punctuation in their name. It's 5-2 apostrophe S. And it was like that way for decades, man. And then like 2008 rolls around, and all of a sudden the apostrophe's gone. Woo! Do you believe it? It's a big mystery too. There's actually a Facebook group called Apostrophe Lost. If you want to join to get in, while they explore the mystery of this disappearing punctuation, woo! It's crazy. Just what else is kind of crazy is too, B-52s, they're from Athens, starts with an A. And they're B. Gets my mind all bug, Georgia on my mind. Actually, there's a lot of A's down in Georgia, there's Athens, Augusta, Atlanta, Macon. I know that doesn't start with an A, but A is the prominent sound, Whew. But I'm in Idaho, like I said. I, me, myself, and I. But it's an A right in the middle of Idaho. Speaking of letters, my friend Jay. I grew up with him, and Jay DePonte. He was hoping to see him tonight in London if this was happening there, man. He's a huge B-52s fan. Whenever I'm listening to them, I'm thinking of him. Well, I shouldn't say whenever, because I can't realistically claim that every time I've ever heard the B-52s, I've been thinking of my friend Jay. I'm sorry, Jay. I just can't claim that with any amount of certainty. I don't want to be taken to court, I mean, I love that song, Rome, you know, and I'm sure I've been dancing on the dance floor, you know, or elsewhere, you know, wherever dancing can be done to that song, and just my mind free and clear of any thoughts whatsoever, just enjoying life, you know? Woo! I'm sorry. But I mean, what I wanted to point out was Jay and I, we went to see James on the Laid tour back in 1994, you know? New Haven, Connecticut, Toad's Place, you know? Jay was wearing this big old floppy Dr. Seuss hat. It was crazy. It was awesome, man. Like, I guess technically it's a cat in the hat. But, you know, you have to repeat hat there, you know, it gets all clunky. So I hope you knew what I meant when I said Dr. Seuss. Unless, like, what type of hats did Dr. Seuss wear, you know? I mean, we should be investigating that. I mean, I would like to know. And maybe it was something completely different than what he was drawing. That just bugged me out, though, you know? But you know what? You know who was opening for James on the Laid tour in the U.S. at that show? Texas! Talking about another state, you know, another state of mind, like that Social Distortion song, Social D, you know? Bringing it back to letters of the alphabet. Woo! But I mean, I should probably get on with the set, you know. This was all sort of preamble welcoming you guys to the show. Like I said, I was supposed to be in London, but, you know, I'm not there now. But if you want to contribute to help that club go on, it's 2northdown.com. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you being here. You know, I got some things on my mind. I really got to get off, you know, my chest, my mind. Both of those expressions, if they're both expressions. I know one of them is, you know. But speaking of Joy Division, you know, I remember clear as day. It was the eve of that great event in 1985, Live Aid, you know. Woo! And I was sitting in a hot tub, FaceTiming with Ian Curtis, you know, the deceased singer of Joy Division, you know. It was crazy. You remember those 2 days in 1985 when, like, all the technology that's in the world now just somehow appeared on Earth? It was like, you know, those scenes in Buffy when, you know, her sister comes for the first time and, like, the sky is, like, tearing open and, like, these giant beasts are crashing into each other from, like, other dimensions. Like, all these portals are going on. Well, like, those of you who were alive in 1985, remember those 2 days, you know? I mean, Buffy was available, too, during those 2 days, you know? So everyone was just watching Buffy the whole time, you know? I mean, Live Aid was kind of like a consolation prize. Like, if you, for some reason, you hadn't heard about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the television show. And the movie was available then, but everyone was watching the television show. And if you hadn't heard of it, you got to see, like, Madonna swear on live TV on Live Aid, you know. But, like, everybody was watching Buffy. Which is why, in the series, when Dawn, you know, the Key, her little sister, appears for the first time, Sarah Michelle Gellar, in her capacity as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, didn't seem all that surprised, you know? Anyway, it was like this for 48 hours. Not the film, 48 hours. That had come out a couple years before. But, you know, the sequel, Another 48 Hours, came out in 1990. You know, that was playing at all the cinemas during those 2 days in 1985. Whew! Anything you wanted, man. I'm sitting there, you know, in my hot tub, just looking at Ian Curtis across FaceTime. And I mean, of course, I had some questions for him, you know? I mean, and what bugged me out was, like, he'd never even heard of New Order. He's just too busy playing mini golf in the afterlife, you know? I mean, as you can imagine, you know, mini golf on the astral plane is insane, you know? It's like all Kabbalistic. It's got the 10 Sephiroth, you know, and like the 32 pathways connecting them and like windmills blocking all the shots, you know? It's crazy, you know? I mean, Ian tried to explain it to me. I mean, I understood all the mystical terminology. I just don't know that much about golf, you know? Reminds me of my favorite joke, though, you know? What's a golfer's favorite number? I don't know. I don't remember how scoring in golf works. Ba-doom-tish. I mean, now that I think about it, actually, this might have been a dream. And like one that I had recently, too, because I hadn't even heard Joy Division in 1985. You know, that would have been weird. Like if I was just FaceTiming with this guy, Ian Curtis, who died in 1980, and he's obsessed with Kabbalistic mini golf, and I don't even know who he is. I'm not trying to think of the first time I ever heard Joy Division, like transmission, novelty, unknown pleasures. Maybe this wasn't a dream, because all three of those titles actually perfectly describe what it would be like to have Ian Curtis tell you about Kabbalistic mini golf via the medium of FaceTime, I mean, it was a weird scene in 1985. I mean, David Lee Roth had just left Van Halen, so you were expecting stuff like this to happen, but you never could tell where nor when. Now that you could just be living your life, and at any given moment, you just walking down the street, and like something like David Lee Roth no longer being in Van Halen could not only be a possibility, but our very reality. I mean, I know some of you think you dodged a bullet, being born after Roth left to avoid all the heart soul ache of it all, But I don't know, man. I mean, it also means you weren't around for the sheer glory of the first 6 hours. So maybe that's the lesson, And it's weird, after Ian Curtis departed, like New Order went on to become one of the biggest synth pop bands in the world. And the same thing when Dave left and Sammy Hagar joined, of old VH, Van Hagar, of course, And you could hear it, you would hear hints of it on Joy Division's Closer, just like you could on 1984, Jump and I'll Wait. I mean, the writing was on the wall. I mean, maybe the very wall that David Lee Roth had his back against, standing up against the record machine and Jump. Whew. And why can't this be love? Why can't this be love, vigilantes, I mean, I guess there's a lot of answers to that question, I mean, first of all, everything can't be the song Love, Vigilantes. I can't imagine a world where everything in it was the song Love, Vigilantes by New Order, I mean, even Soup. How would that work? Actually, that sounds pretty amazing, though, Like a song in soup form, I mean, you take a big old mouthful, you put the spoon in, your taste buds start vibrating at all the right frequencies. You're in heaven. Like that Pixies song. All right, I know it came from Eraserhead, but Eraserhead and Soup, that's terrifying. I mean, Eraserhead was a horrifying film enough already, Imagine, you just put a spoonful of scrumptious soup in your mouth, you're all ready to, let the song flow all over you, and someone comes along with something that can erase liquid? I mean, would that just be a vacuum, I don't know. I mean, imagine trying to eat soup with someone trying to jam a vacuum hose in your mouth the whole time. I mean, that should be an Olympic sport. Man and soup versus vacuum. I mean, it's symbolic, of course, the whole primordial soup from which we all came from, whilst floating in this vacuum of space. Whew. I mean, I should ask Ian Curtis about this when I had the chance. Will there be a time period when all of us are just trying to eat some soup? Because, I should clarify, the hot tub I was in was not full of soup. If there's one thing I know, it's when I was FaceTiming with Ian Curtis on the eve of Live Aid in 1985 that hot tub was not full of soup. But I could have asked him, Will, people be trying to eat soup in the future thinking it's Love, Vigilantes, and then these, vacuuming forces show up, kind of like the Daleks, I guess? I mean, this is probably what Doctor Who was trying to say, But they had to slip it past the censors because, television is much closer to a vacuum than it is to soup. Imagine the TARDIS being full of soup. I mean, that would be amazing, You already think you're getting a giant foam box full of soup. But when you get inside, it's so much more, that you can both eat and bathe. And actually, I don't know if I'd want to do that. Yeah. But who could help me out with this problem, If it was a dream or not. Oh, Jean-Paul Sartre, I mean, he's always there lurking in my dream. I shouldn't say lurking, because like we're always hanging out together, you know. It's always 1941 for some reason, and we're both, you know, in gay Paris, you know, just hanging out on the banks of the Seine, you know, like dangling our legs and dipping our toes in the water, you know. I mean, I love it. And like, you know, the other night, you know, I turned to him and I said, Judge, something with a J and an I. I'm not Jerry. I mean, that's who we were fighting in 1941. But I mean, the other night I turned to old JPS and I said, you know, rock and roll ain't no noise pollution. And you know what happens next? Well, only AC/DC gonna use that as the last song on Back in Black. I mean, I'm not saying I caused this or anything. I mean, I only had this dream like a week ago. But I mean, maybe if I go deep into my dream so like my conscious self can get into my subconscious and like direct my conversation, I can ask, you know, Sartre if this was a dream and if I was actually, you know, maybe he could confirm. He's like, oh yeah, you were FaceTiming with Ian Curtis back then, you know. But I mean, I have no idea. I hope Sartre's not bitter. I wasn't FaceTiming with him. I have no idea what he was doing those 2 days in 1985. I mean, maybe I shouldn't bring it up at all. I mean, he could have been there right there in the hot tub with me. I don't want to offend him by not remembering, you know? I mean, like April, May 1980, when AC/DC was recording Back in Black, you know? I mean, we lost Sartre in April. We lost Ian Curtis, you know, in May. I mean, it does beg the question, did Sartre ever see Joy Division, you know? I mean, they're around at the same time. It's possible. It could have been like one of his first post-punk shows, you know, and he's only familiar with their early stuff, so he's all like trying to pogo, you know, and like it's embarrassing for everybody. But I mean, like there was that live album, you know, Le Bon Douche, you know, recorded in Paris, December 1979, you know. I mean, maybe Sartre was there, you know, which does beg the question, you know. Is this what gave birth to my psyche? I mean, it's something every man asks himself from time to time, you know? I mean, I trust Sartre's musical taste, like what he has to say. I mean, I wish I could go deeper in my dreams to talk to him about this stuff. Because, man, I got some questions, man, you know? I mean, you know that song, Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong. I love THC. But the thing is, waterfalls don't move. I mean, the water moves, you know. But the waterfalls themselves always stay in the same exact geographical location. I mean, there's no need to go chasing them. You know, you'd run right by them if you tried. And like people throw all sorts of things in that. Why would people pee in there? I mean, that's inappropriate for a pop song on the radio, you know. Probably wouldn't have been as big a hit if it was called Don't Go Chasing the Urine in Waterfalls. I mean, no matter how much that might express our deepest, innermost, you know, dreams and desires. Metaphorically, of course, you know. I mean, people throw their empty beer cans in there. Well, they think they're empty, but there's always that little bit of swill on the bottom, you know. The water from the river goes in that little hole top of the can, mixes in with the swill. Before you know it, that swill is out the top of the can, into the river, and over the waterfall. To grandmother's house we go. I mean, it doesn't have to be beer cans either. It could be like a vodka bottle, you know, a rum bottle, Slivovitz bottle, you know, snake wine bottle. I mean, does snake wine even come in a bottle? I mean, I guess it would have to ferment, you know. I mean, you always hear about those crazy bathtub snake wine epidemics popping up everywhere these days, you know. But I mean, you'd have to bottle it to distribute it, I think, you know. Unless when it's ready, you know, they're just calling people into the bathroom and they're hovering and slurping like pigs over a trough. But instead of a trough, it's a bathtub full of dead, fermented snakes. You know, and what so happens if you're a renegade distiller just happens to have a sideline in resurrection snake charming, you know? He pulls out his flute, snake rears up its head, and just before it goes to sink its fangs in your neck, he pulls back and starts wriggling and riding, because he started playing Living on a Prayer on his flute, whoa, etc. You know how the song goes. I mean, Jovi, man, John Bon. That guy's got some deep-seated issues with water, right? I mean, why else would you call an album Slippery When Wet? It's right there on the cover, like a warning. I mean, who gets their records wet? They won't play. I mean, I'm proud to say that as much as I love Van Halen, I have been able to take a shower without having my 1984 album on my person. I mean, my whole life. I'm not bragging or nothing. That's just how it is. But Jovi's album before that was called 7,800 Degrees Fahrenheit. Woo! I mean, talk about extremes. Now, maybe you should have a little talk with Billy Joel, I mean, that is, unless Billy Joel has since figured out why he goes to extremes and, just doesn't bother to tell any of us. But, I mean, 7,800 degrees, that's way too hot. You got to throw that in the bathtub just to cool it down. Throw it in the waterfall, with all the snake wine bottles and urine. But don't go chasing those. That's litter. Whew. Man. But all that music, my older cousins got me into that when I was growing up, man. They got me into a bunch of movies, too. But, like, when I was little, I was, like, obsessed with Star Wars, But they all went to see Scarface. Like, I was too young to go with them, And they came back, and they're just raving about it, And, like, with Luke and Leia on my mind, I got all confused, And then they got confused when I asked if the Ewoks were in it, But I mean, ever since then, I've been convinced that Scarface takes place in outer space. I mean, that's just the impression I have, like impressionist painters, I mean, I still ain't never seen the film. Was Al Pacino an impressionist painter in Scarface? Some sort of Mad Max post-apocalyptic free-for-all in outer space. Al Pacino, a young impressionist painter just trying to find his way in that world. See, my issue with Mad Max was always, that was an Australian film. But they didn't make the best use of their national resources, Boxing kangaroos. I mean, a fine addition to any film, I think you'll find. What even made Gandhi better, in my opinion? Definitely Miss Congeniality, too. But I mean, it's tricky with Scarface, getting involved with the mob, fixing fights. I mean, I imagine it would be quite difficult to get a kangaroo to go down in a certain round. I mean, unless Al Pacino's like the horse whisperer, And I remember when that film came out, I was backpacking around Spain, and they had all these huge movie posters for it everywhere. And they had to be huge, because it was like the longest movie title translation ever. I mean, it was literally El hombre que susurrabra a los caballos. The man who whispers in the ears of horses. So, I mean, is Al Pacino like the man who whispers in the ears of boxing kangaroos in space? Which is going to be a problematic movie, Because sound does not travel through space. Just be a bunch of annoyed kangaroos hanging out for like an hour and a half being like, we cannot hear you. So, I mean, they get it right for the second film. The kangaroos put their big old floppy feet down, insist on some clarification, For the man who whispers in the ears of boxing kangaroos in space on the spaceship, You had Al Pacino whispering in the ears of Joey. I mean, you'd have to call the main boxing kangaroo Joey, don't you think? The kid, the young and tough kid, But imagine if that Friends spin-off Joey was just Al Pacino in a kangaroo costume bouncing around the planets. It'd be a waste. You couldn't tell it was him if he was wearing that outfit. I mean, I don't remember too many Friends spinoffs that took place in outer space, do you? I mean, if you do, please let me know. I mean, if there's an emoji for that, that would be great, you know? But I mean, you know, what is the scenario that Al Pacino is painting these kangaroos in? It's like those dogs playing poker pictures. Kangaroos are taking a break from the boxing ring, kicking it around a card table, you know, playing like pinochle or whist. Or war, I mean, that would be rad, you know, one of them's throwing down the ace of spades, you got a Motorhead album cover in the background by the stereo, the Grim Reaper's all peering in through the window of the spaceship, but the kangaroos don't care, they're all cool and nonchalant, smoking cigars, feet up on the table. I mean, is this what happened in Scarface? Because I would love to see that film. Thanks, y'all, for listening. I'm Young Southpaw. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you want to kick some money over to 2 North Down to help them keep going with the comedy club through these rough times, that would be awesome. Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.